See Ryan on Amulet Titan, definitely an Amulet master.
Yes.
Has played this deck an absolute ton, and the range of outcomes from Amulet, based on how good the player is with the deck, is wide.
100%. After I lost to him back-to-back weekends at this last tournament I played, where I was on Breach, I just had to rethink. I was like, I thought this matchup was good for me, and I just got eviscerated, multiple times in a row. So yeah, the kid is the real deal.
All right, so we see Orzhov on 1 for Ryan, followed by a Mycosynth Garden. Christopher got just a little surveil land here. Of course, the Blink deck much more fair. More of a can do some powerful stuff, but more fair blinking value kind of deck. So is that going to line up poorly here against Ryan with trying to take kind of the fair approach?
Yeah, I would think that this matchup is a little brutal for the Orzhov Blink deck. It's just a little slow, but it does have the ability to, blow up some lands with White Orchid Phantom. If you can blink that, that's kind of game plan number 1 here for Christopher. Obviously this Overlord, blink it with Flicker Wisp, all that kind of stuff is great, but you're just dead. Similar to what we saw from Neoform, Amulet is Amulet's slower, I guess, compared to the Neoform deck when we just saw. It's usually a turn 3 combo deck, so look out right here with the Garden coming into play. Ryan Bellamy is going to start with 2 Amulets in play, and that's never a safe sight on the other side.
Yeah, and kind of similar to Boros, where there's a little more disruption in this deck, but still not a ton. We're not seeing Thoughtseize, we're not seeing counter spells. So game 1. Ryan kind of just do his thing, which looks like he might be doing right now. So 2 Amulets in play, always the scary spot.
Yeah.
First Amulet's scary. Second Amulet means the world is Ryan's oyster.
Yeah, the third Amulet, I shield my eyes, like.
Pack up your cards and walk away.
Exactly. All
right, so we see a Boreal Razor coming down. We see Bounce Line Float and some mana. Summoner's Pact. Gonna go find. What do you think it's gonna get here, Corey?
God, it looked so good in the last one. I want to go get Galta, Stampede Tyrant.
It's actually. We actually got a Cultivator Colossus
Wow,
here.
take that, Jim.
All right, I know, right? So foolish me. These Amulet decks are always so confusing. So
exactly.
Cultivator Colossus comes in. Corey, talk me through Cultivator Colossus.
Well, first, I think maybe you should get some coaching sessions from Bellamy so you would be up to date on this. All right, so Cultivator Colossus, you're putting a land into play for each one. You then draw a card. So the way it works out here, Cultivator Colossus did come into play as a 0/0, so it is dead. But you get to put as many lands as you have in your hand into play. And it's not where, let's say you have 4 lands in hand. You put those 4 into play, draw 4, and then if those are lands, you don't get to play them. Not how Cultivator Colossus works. You get to draw, play that one if it's a land, and then eventually whatever non-land cards you have in this deck are pretty much going to be Primeval Titans or Scape Shifts. And each one of these lands is going to untap twice. So, those Gruul Turfs are going to add 4 each. Besage of the Forest, they're going to add some mana as well. So the world is Ryan's oyster here. I see a Primeval Titan in hand, so we're going to go through the motions, and here's going to be one of my least favorite things when I'm playing against Ryan. He now will explain to you why you're dead, and and then we'll move on to game 2.
Yeah, I actually was watching Ryan in the last round, going through the full entire combo, which we're going to see now here, I can only assume. I'm sure that when Cultivator Colossus was designed, it was meant to die when it ETBs, right?
100%. Yeah. You're supposed to cast that with no lands. Yep. 100%.
So we see lands being bounced here, a bunch of mana floating. Here is your Primeval Titan, and with 2 Amulets in play, that's going to be a bunch more mana. And Old Lord of the Battlemark's a good card and all, but kind of twiddling its thumbs here a little bit.
Exactly. So now we're going to need some colorless mana. We have that Mirror Pool, which is going to untap twice. So you can get Mirror Pool, untap once, add colorless, untap again, make a copy of Titan. And basically, for every Mirror Pool you have in your list, or, Echoing Deeps as you're going to sacrifice them, you get to keep making Titans. And if you do have the ability to find one more creature, you'd get Aftermath Analyst, and you can kind of get a loop going when you bring back Shifting Woodlands. Going to sacrifice it to the Lotus Field here. Bring back Woodlands, bring back Mirror Pool, make infinite Titans, give them all haste, and get it done.
Yeah, for Ryan's last match, the number was 1 million Titans. He chose 1 million.
1 million? Okay.
Only 1 million, a pretty modest number.
Conservative these days, I see. Okay.
Yep. So now Christopher, I mean, I suppose could have a Solitude here. If it is the one possible interaction point, right?
Yeah, yep. Can absolutely have a Solitude to interact with this Titan. We see another Pact. So now we'll see if you get the Aftermath Analyst first or maybe go for Titans. Looks like the Analysts to for sure bring back those lands. And we have Instant Creature Enchantment. So doesn't look like we have it quite yet.
All right, well, Analyst's going to come into play in Mill 3 here. Looks like we added an artifact to that one, so there you go.
That'll do.
So Delirium is in. Analyst goes to the bin. Now all the lands come back. So, of course, we're going to see a bunch of triggers here from Lotus Field. We're going to see the Amulet, the untapped triggers going on the stack as well. And Ryan's going to talk us through it.
Yep, he's going to be explaining exactly what he's going to do. He's very good at kind of walking through his opponent on exactly what he's going to do. Now, granted, it's still, if you take a step back from this Amulet deck, it's a very confusing line when you go for the infinite Titan things. When you just do a couple Titans, attack, get a bounce land, bring back Besagers, and, say go, kill them the next turn. It's not as ridiculous, but...
Yeah, come a long way since, was it Sunhome, Fortress of Legion?
Yes.
You would haste and double strike, attack for 16, and, that was the combo.
Yeah, but the other part of the combo was your opponent took 4 from their own lands almost always.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so see some lands go to the bin thanks to the Lotus Field, more mana, more Titans, and Ryan just having a great day.
Oh, this is Ryan thriving right now.
Yep.
In his element, feature match, his opponent's letting him do this, if I'm across from the table, I've already submitted my deck for game 2 because I would have conceded so long ago, but, I love it. And Ryan's loving it as well.
Yeah, definitely Amulet players are a different breed.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is just their happy place.
100%.
All right, so we see Hammer Battlement, we see Mirror Pool. The Battlement can give haste. Mirror Pool's going to get that loop going alongside the Analyst. And Ryan's looking towards Christopher saying, so, anything you want to say here? Would you like to join the game in progress? Or?
Yeah. Do you want to thank your mom or something? Do you want any shout-outs while I'm doing this?
Yep.
I remember back in the old days, a Storm player would bring a coloring book. So while they were comboing off, they'd give their opponent something to do. Gotta love it. So I believe that was Caleb.
Yeah. All right, so here's Solitude. So we were kind of looking for the window of, when is a Solitude action to be impactful here? And it looks like it's going to be in response to the Mirror Pool targeting the second Titan.
Okay.
Is that going to be enough?
I don't think so, but we shall see.
All right, so Titan goes to exile, 6 life for Ryan. And now there's only 2 Amulets, a bunch of lands, a Titan in play.
Yeah, and there's still going to be the Aftermath Analyst coming back. This is sacking the cave for whatever land you want. There's the Echoing Deep for another Mirror Pool, I would assume. And then you Mirror Pool the other Titan. Or, Bellamy might go for what it seemed like he went for before. Make sure he has a second Titan in play before he targets one of them to make sure there isn't Solitude number 2.
Yep.
But if that Mirror Pool resolves, then you got to know we're all good to go here.
And even if there is Solitude number 2, at that point,
I don't think it matters.
That's 4 cards out of Christopher's hand, and there's plenty of mana things available. I guess Ryan's played, 1 or 2 packs so far?
Probably 5. Who knows?
Which is kind of like the out, right? Where when you are playing against Amulet, your hope can be, maybe I can't win, but they can lose to the pack. If I can disrupt them in some way and stop them from having the necessary mana. So
yeah, and honestly, there is a lot of value, and you should always do this. If you don't know the player you're playing against, you don't know the level of how well they know their deck, you want to see exactly what they do because it's going to help you sideboard, and it's just going to kind of show their efficiency with the deck. I've had the great joy of losing to Ryan so many times that I would have already packed it up because I know he's not going to mess this up, but especially if you have a Solitude, there's a lot of players that just go, all right, Titan, give it haste, and then if you get them there, they're like, all right, dang, go, and I have to pack next turn type thing. So
we see the win here for Ryan, using the loop to give Handware Battlements all the Titans getting haste.
Yes.
So it's funny to go through an entire loop to give one thing haste and go through and through.
Yeah. Because that's how it would work there. Because with the Lotus Field, you're sacking the Handware Battlements each time. So then when you bring it back, you'll be able to give 2 Titans haste, and then you're rinse and repeating every single time. That's how all the Titans get haste as well.
a lot of loops. So
a lot of loops.
On Christopher's side, sideboard here we see 1 Ava Interrupter, 1 Celestial Purge, 3 Deafening Silence, 1 March, 2 Prismatic Endings, 1 Toxic Deluge, 2 Vindicate, not quite Molten Rain, 2 White Orchid Phantom, and 2 Wrath of the Skies. What does Christopher have to do here to not have that happen again?
So I definitely like the White Orchid Phantoms. That's got to be plan number 1 for me. I want to be kind of aggressively mulliganing to White Orchid Phantom. That is a tongue twister. Say that 10 times fast.
Nope.
And then Ephemerates. I want that to be my main plan. Aven Interrupter is also amazing. Imagine if, Christopher didn't have 3 lands there, but if you have Aven Interrupter and you get to interrupt the Titan after your opponent already pacted, boom, that would be gigantic. As well as I'd bring in Vindicate and the March to deal with Urza Sagas.
Okay, and then on Ryan's side, and of course, with most combo decks, you are more so sideboarding against your opponent's sideboard than their deck. See 1 Bestage, 1 Cavern of Souls, 1 Collector Oof, 1 Sky Turtle, love that one, 2 Dismember, 3 Fire Spout, 2 Force of Vigor, 2 Green Sun Zenith, 1 Seal of Removal, and 1 6. What is Ryan going to need to do to defend here against his possible onslaught of land destruction?
Not a ton. I definitely like the Dismembers, as you can break up those Ephemerate loops. I think that's a very important one. Fire Spout seems decent if you want to control the battlefield a little bit. I'd maybe consider that 1 of 6 as well, but yeah, Dismembers are the main ones I'm looking at.
All right, so we'll get into our match in a second here, but first, so Corey, I got a scenario for you.
Yeah.
You just lost to Neoform on turn 2 for the 10th time with your Boros Energy deck.
Yeah.
You want to sell it and get into a new deck. What do you got to do?
Well, I'm going to for sure go to Star City Games and sell my cards because I'm going to have to buy that Neoform deck because it looked so sweet and it just destroyed me so many times. So I really want to get that extra store credit that SCG offers. You get that 30% kickback if you just want to buy more Magic cards. I don't think I've sold so many cards to SCG, Jim. I don't think I've ever accepted cash from them. And not because I'm just like, you keep it, SCG. It's because they're racking up my tab. I have so much store credit with them all the time. So anytime I want to buy a new deck, I just go to starcitygames.com and order whatever I want. So go to sellyourcards.starcitygames.com if you want to do the same thing.
When I get cash, I often regret it.
Yeah.
I often end up just buying cards 2 weeks later and being like, could have 30% here. So
could have 30%.
Back down in the feature match area, we see Christopher starting off with an MDFC land. Just a shifting wood land for Ryan, and back Christopher's way. And is it time to start killing some lands?
It definitely might be.
So
it definitely might be.
Christopher, thinking perhaps if this is a land worth killing, decides that it is. Here comes the Phantom. We see that Ghost Quarter effect. So the land goes away. Ryan gets a basic forest out of a deck. And not like a super important land. Not as bad as killing an Urza Saga or a bounce land, which can be tempo devastating.
Yeah, I think what it's really about here, maybe Christopher didn't have another play. That's not a land you really care about at all. But having the Phantom in play means that, let's say we have an Amulet here, and then a bounce land gets put on the stack, then you have the ability to ephemerate this and then kill the bounce land, where your opponent, sure, they can go get another basic. There's 3 of those in the list for Ryan, but they still have to return said basic. Ends up being a very good exchange for them.
We got a sloth party here.
Woo!
Razor into Grazer, now 4 mana in play for Ryan. The bounce land is there and exposed, and kind of like Esper Pixie in Standard, like when you're playing this Orzhov deck, each effect is just going to happen over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So, we can see so many more. We can see this Orchid Ghost Quarter almost every turn. But if they get in the red zone here, and these slots are going to step in the way, so 0-3 makes a block.
Love it. Make them block.
And, that's a classic. Listen, it's not quite Molten Rain, but it is certainly the same class. Vindicate on the bounce land, almost like a double Molten Rain.
Absolutely.
So, back Ryan's way, we see an Explore. So 2 land drops coming for Ryan here. Of course, Explore playing excellent with the bounce lands.
Yep, we'll see how many lands we have. Yeah, 0 lands. So this may look like a very different game here. And hey, this is all some interaction here from Christopher. Also Bellamy maybe not having the absolute best draw, but we'll see if there is a bounce land.
Yeah, I was going to say, is it possible that Ryan just didn't want to play a land there?
Yes,
just hold the bounce land, keep it safe for a bigger turn, and then now we see the explosion, Amulet of Vigor, Spelunking, all these extra land effects. And, Christopher is doing some cool stuff, but not getting any damage through it all.
Yeah. I was really hoping to see an end-step Fila here. Makes a lot of sense. You're able to blink out your White Orchid Phantom, blow up another land at Christopher's end step, and keep the land destruction going.
looks like 3 basic forests in Ryan's deck. Whenever you're playing against one of these, Ghost Quarter-centric decks, your basic land count is very, very important. For playing Tron back in the day, you wanted to have 5 forests, you can catch Thragtusk. So 3 forests here for Ryan.
That's way too far back in the day.
Was it too far?
Too far.
My back. Hold on a second.
Yeah, no kidding.
So we see a blink out here from Philia, and we see Recruiter of the Guard going to go tutor up a creature. Something.
Okay. Go find something to interact. Solitude is the only free piece of interaction, but you can always get Witch Enchanter as well. That looks like a Flicker Wisp there, so able to blink out next turn. So looks like this is Ryan's turn. You either got to do it now, otherwise the land destruction will continue until morale improves. And this will probably be Christopher picking it up. But at the same time, like you were saying, there's just not that much pressure right now. And the Orzhov Blink deck in general just does not pressure your opponent that much.
Yeah, to be fair also, those are some nice forests.
Oh, yeah.
You can't feel too bad going over the deck and pulling those out. But
I love the full art lands like Christopher has, but man, if I could afford them, I need to sell my cards at SCG and pick up some beta lands. Hopefully they have them in stock.
Or beat Ryan in the finals.
Oh, yeah. You get to keep the cards if you beat them in the finals?
Yeah, prize money, I'm sure, can buy you maybe 1 land or 2.
Okay, fair.
All right, so big turn for Ryan here. Spelunking, Amulet of Vigor. A lot of potential for this turn to be fireworks, and like you're saying, it kind of has to be.
It kind of does have to be, and the way these lands interact with Spelunking and an Amulet on the battlefield, it's almost like there's only one of them. They don't help each other. It's not like get to have them tapped, but also untap, add double mana, any of that kind of shenanigans. So double Spelunking also doesn't do anything, but double Amulet negates the Spelunking for sure.
All right, so we see not great for Ryan here. Just playing the 3rd forest. So that means it was naturally drawn, therefore not available in the deck to pull out another one of these land destruction effects.
That's a big deal because there is another land destruction spell ready to go. Looks like Ryan's getting the Oracle text on a card, I'm sure.
Yeah, so with 4 cards in hand for Ryan, kind of a squeeze, Really has to go off his turn. We're going to see a lot of blanks next turn. I guess Philia returns on the end step, right?
It returns on the end step.
So we cannot see a blink and then blink with Flicker Wisp again. So capped at 1 trigger perhaps, but still a lot of pressure. But we see Zenith 4/3.
Okay. Now we could see there was a 6 in the sideboard we could have. Let's see. Yep, there is that. I was like, we don't see any Azuzas, those kind of cards that we've seen in the past. Not even any Dryads in this list, which is slightly surprising. But as I look at that, no Valakuts either. Man, these Amulet decks just evolved so fast.
Yeah, they really do. And 6 coming in here. 6 is kind of like the grindy sideboard card of choice. Can cast things in the graveyard. However,
it doesn't look good here, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, 3 forests is going to be what Ryan was working with for a while. Although, again, explosively, bounce line here, bounce line there.
The one thing I'm seeing right now is Christopher has the ability to destroy Ryan Bellamy's Boseiju, Solitude 6, with just what we've seen. The Flicker Wisp can get the Recruiter out of there. That can come back. You can get Solitude, get rid of 6 at Christopher's end step, and the Philia can attack, blink out the Phantom, and get rid of that Boseiju, and leave Ryan with 3 mana, and that's not the sweet spot. You really want to have 4 mana going into your turn, then a Titan is pretty trivial. Otherwise, you got to jump through some hoops. You got to have Grazer number 3 and a bounce land. So everything coming up Christopher so far.
Chris deciding how best to navigate this. A lot of cards in hand as well. So a lot of good avenues we can see on board, but also in hand as well. Working through the permutations. And Ryan, this is kind of the opposite of game 1, right? Where Chris sat and watched Ryan do his thing, and now Ryan's going to sit and be like, all right, well, your thing is just killing all my lands, and then killing me very slowly. Of course, Ryan's still at 20 life. So miserable on both sides,
I'm just happy we saw a turn 4, Jim. So far we have not touched a turn 4 in our 2 matches that we've watched, so I'm here for it. I want to watch some games.
Well, we are gaming right now. Some finger math for Christopher. Looks like popping into combat here, maybe. All right, so here is that Flicker Wisp. Can come into play and blink something.
Yeah, and it comes back into play at Christopher's end step, which not that relevant right now, as it'll still get the effect.
Ooh, all right.
Okay.
So going to target the Witch Enchanter. Is it going to target?
It's the Witch Enchanter.
Okay,
yes,
the Witch
yes,
Enchanter.
yes.
Okay, yes. So the MDFC land come back as the creature, which will disenchant. We see Felia get in here, and we see a blink on the Flicker Wisp. So not a lot Ryan can do to interact with this. Six going to block the doggo. So no damage getting through. These are not damage attacks.
Yes.
These are value attacks.
So this is interesting. So we're going to have the Witch Enchanter come back. It's going to blow up, Spelunking or Amulet. That doesn't do much right now because when you lose one or the other, you just use the other, And Flicker Wisp is coming back. We'll see what that targets. Okay, it gets rid of the Amulet. I'm very happy that Christopher did that because if you don't take away some piece of cardboard from Ryan, a Titan is pretty inevitable.
Yeah, very, very, very tight play there from Christopher. Recognizing I don't need to kind of kill everything. I need to make sure that we get to my next turn. Engines online, rocking and rolling here. So we see a discard of a Crumbling Vestige to retrace and cast Spelunking from the graveyard with 6. A card is drawn.
Yeah. And this is going to be up to 5 mana.
So Simic Growth Chamber comes into play. On tap, makes 2 mana, bounces itself. And bounces itself again.
That's a grazer.
All right. That's 6 mana.
Okay.
So explaining how the Growth Chamber is coming in, untapping, bouncing itself. This should put us at 6 mana, the magic number.
Yep.
Get a little mana counter here.
Now, I think that would have been good to go regardless unless the Simic Growth Chamber was drawn off that Spelunking.
All right. Up to 5 mana with a Boseiju untapped.
Bounces itself. The Boseiju will be able to put a Primeval Titan into play. There's the Pact.
All right, Summoner's Pact going to go search. Now, Pact is a little bit scary here, I suppose. Ryan doesn't seem poised to go off completely here, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely not going to be the combo that we saw last game, but it'll easily be I'm going to get 1 more land into play, maybe 2 more lands into play that can at least pay for Pact if the worst kind of thing happens where, Ryan loses the Titan to a Solitude here and Christopher is able to destroy some lands. The not being able to pay for Pact next turn would, of course, lose Ryan the game.
I mean, given that Ryan's still at 20 and damage is not exactly forthcoming here, this is kind of the issue for Christopher, right? Where Christopher's doing a bunch of stuff, killing lands galore, not really dealing damage or getting the game over with.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, it is prime time. Titan's in, 5 mana out of the pool, tap a land. We got a Titan trigger. Let's go get some lands.
Now it'll be interesting whether we go for the Haywire Battlements plus a red source and get that going, or if you try to do a little something more. I'm never going to question Ryan, so, that's pretty scary.
Sit back and watch, folks.
Yeah.
Enjoy the show, because we're ready to rock and roll here. 2 Lotus Fields.
I mean, even if you just go Lotus Fields, sack the other 4 lands, and leave those in play where they can't really be interacted with because they're hexproof, excellent. But looks like Ryan has more plans than that. And, I mean, if you have 1 more Pact and you can go get Aftermath Analyst with that 6 mana, then all of a sudden you're bringing back all these lands. And when your Lotus Fields go to the graveyard like that, it's usually bad news bears.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree strongly with you that, just getting 2 fields in play isn't that bad.
Yeah.
You can't kill them at 6 mana, but this is the other path, and this is the uh-oh path. And it must feel bad for Christopher having killed all of these lands.
Yeah.
About to watch them all come right back into play here.
Yep. Really brutal stuff. And, you got to think Christopher did have a couple different lines, that he could have chose to do. I don't know how many of them really would have mattered.
Yeah. All right, so here's a cut. Here's an analyst. And, how convenient is 4 mana floating? It's so convenient it worked out like that.
So convenient. It's like he's really planning for that. I'll tell you, that 4 mana is going to turn into a lot more.
A lot.
A lot more.
Get your calculators out, folks. So
yeah, no kidding.
Analyst gets sacked, and guess what? All those lands that were destroyed, they're coming right back.
They're coming right back.
Lotus Fields. We got Bounce Lands. We got Shifting Woodlands. A whole bunch of mana. Looks like we
do have Delirium.
Delirium for the Woodland. Floating mana. Get those dice going. We also have the Retrace on the
on 6, yep.
Which is kind of cute as well. A multitude of options for Ryan here.
Oh, yeah. This should at least lead to infinite mana. But that is maybe not enough here. You know, you do got to have a little something extra. We don't have the mirror pool for the Titans yet. I guess when you do have infinite mana, you're also milling over your deck infinite times. So, yeah, I would think just the Analyst here is enough because you're going to eventually hit mirror pool. You're going to eventually hit the Hairwar Battlements. So, here we go.
Looking pretty good. Christopher again in the hot seat. And, you know, it's tough. Christopher executed the game plan that he was looking for. I can only assume this game. You know, killed, what, 4 lands? 5 lands?
Yeah.
You know, he saw Vindicate, multiple Phantom triggers. But this Amulet deck is just resilient when piloted by a master.
Yeah, exactly. And the fact that, you know, you get to play 8 Amulets, essentially, Splunking and Amulet. This deck was a lot easier to beat when you're like, all right, I'm going to attack your Amulets. I'm going to always be prepared to march them or whatever. But now when that's your plan and then your opponent Splunkings, or, you know, you're always just attacking the Titan. And so you have removal for it in response to them getting haste. And then they scape shift you on turn 4, you know, with 3 lands and they still win the game. It's just like, God, like, what? How do you beat this deck? And it really shows to me that Amulet Titan is either 100% tier 1 up there with Boros Energy, or it is that S tier to me. Like, I really think Amulet feels like it's in a tier of its own right now. It's just so incredibly difficult to play that it's not a deck that everyone wants to pick up because, you know, these lines don't make sense to everyone like they do to Ryan, like they do to Canister, like, you know, to Dom, to all these Amulet masters that have been playing this deck forever.
Must be nice for them too, right? You know, like to know that like you're in a very small class of players, you have access to this thing that most people don't.
Yeah.
You know, because the Amulet deck is exceedingly difficult to play. I've tried to play it a few times. Every time I do, I just time out the first match and drop the league. You know, like it is so difficult. You know, and we've seen that before. You know, with Ironworks in the past as well, of decks that were probably S tier, but gate kept by the fact they were just so hard to play and so taxing, and well, difficult to play strategically and mechanically. Yeah. There's so much stuff happening right now, you know?
Well, hey, man, I know Ryan Bellamy is a buddy of mine. If you want to get a coaching session, you know, just whatever your rate was, you can just give that, you know, money right back to him.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, that's when you know your student has worked out, when he becomes the teacher. So we'll get you in some one-on-one sessions with Bellamy after this event, okay?
When I left you, I was supposed to be the learner. Now I am the master. And then I say, only a master of evil, Ryan. He's an evil Amulet player. But so Ryan, go through the motions here. That's a bunch of Titans in play. We got a bunch of Lance in play. We got a bunch of loops happening. Christopher can only shuffle the cards in. It got to be a little bit of surprise here. Ryan Bellamy takes down the match. Amulet Titan, a master of a deck, now 3-0, looking to make a great run with a deck that, like we're saying, is just a really, really